Good evening. I'd like to start off by thanking the projector angels for saving me from having to go behind the audit report. With that said,
What? Dwight, are you
fix the bulb
suggesting
here in
that
a
might be
minute.
a boring thing for one to watch? Is that what you
so anyway, we have the annual report from the Heart of the Arts Incorporated. They took over the management of the 1912 Center back in 2007, and in the past they've given you quarterly reports as well as an annual. And so we have their executive director, Jenny Kostroff, here to give you the 2014 annual report.
Hi, Jenny.
Hello. So, since we have no pictures tonight, you don't get to see pictures of construction, so all of you will just have to make a trek up to the 1912 Center and walk around the building to experience all the fun stuff that I'm going to talk about tonight. So, let's see if I can do a quick and exciting summary of all the action that we have had at the 1912 Center since Heart of the Arts took over operations in 2007. In 2008, we added the West Wing, which added the Fisk Room and the Arts Workshop spaces for use, as well as a fancy, fantastic dressing room bathroom. Been used by many a bride since. And then, in 2009 and 2010, we worked on the exterior of the building, adding 52 windows to the facility, and tuck-pointing brick repair, and fixing the top balustrades, and working on all of the exterior work on the two sides. That was 2009, 2010. 2011, we worked on the retaining wall on the back of the building and partnered with the City of Moscow to get that parking lot begun, and we finished the parking lot in 2011. In 2012, we worked on exterior landscaping and lighting. 2013 was fundraising and additional work on the exterior so that in 2014 we could finish 22 window replacements on the east end of the facility. And now when you arrive to the building on that side, it has beautiful windows and it's very beautiful. I've repeated beautiful. So that's the exterior work and all the fun that we've had on the outside of the building. Inside in the kitchen, we've also replaced the flooring in 2012, and in 2011 we did a kitchen appliances upgrade and the hood upgrade. So those were done in partnership with Avista and the Idaho Community Foundation. And I should say that our work with the East End exterior was partnered with the Inland Northwest Community Foundation Community Strategies Grant. They did a $10,000 contribution towards that project. And the balustrade work on the west end was completed last fall with help from the Idaho Heritage Trust. And so those two organizations were important participants and helpful, and we're very, very thankful for those grants. So we are currently under contract with the Pioneer Waterproofing out of Spokane, and under that contract we will begin our work on the exterior on the front balustrades. Now the balustrades are the little, to quote my favorite Walter Steed, gingerbread. They are our beautiful toppings to the entryways.
But beautiful gingerbread.
They're beautiful gingerbread. They are what you would want on your gingerbread house. They are the most pretty part of the entryways. And on the front of the building right now, if you look at it, you won't see the balustrades. Those are in the shop at Pioneer's office in Spokane. Those will be replaced as soon as our weather has been good, but as soon as our weather is a little warmer and consistently warmer, they will be putting those into place. So end of April, beginning of May. Those will be going back into place and being secured, and all of those will be safe. And the entryways will also, when you walk up underneath them, they'll get their trim back underneath. It will be very pretty, and you will think, wow, this is so nice. So those will be completed in the early part of the spring. And because we're still under contract, we are currently fundraising to attempt to have all the funds in hand that we would need to continue the exterior work, replacing the windows on the south side of the facility and doing all the brickwork and repair. If we don't have all the funds for the windows also, we'll just do the brickwork and repair, and then we will enter into a separate contract with probably a different company to just do the windows at the end, because those, to me, are the crown jewel. When you look at the front of the building, they will be very dramatic to have all those windows replaced, so we want to do those at the end of all of the work on the south side of the facility facing 3rd Street. So that's our plan for 2015. And last year we hosted 5 plaza concerts out on the plaza during the summertime. We had 5 different art shows in the facility open to the public to participate in, especially the community art show that took place. It was called Raining Cats and Dogs. That was last February and March. This year we currently have Funny Business in the art gallery right now. It's a community art show with all ages participating, and the pieces are interpretations of funny business, so you can believe there are some very interesting pieces in the show right now. We also just completed our 11th season of winter markets, and they were very successful. We had 6 different markets, and wonderful weather for every single market. I don't know what happened there, but we had vegetables for sale all winter long at our markets, and that's not ever happened quite like that, to have greens at every single market. And then all sorts of different crafts and vendors and new people that had never sold here in Moscow that have, home-based hobby businesses and were coming out to try selling. So that was very fun to have different vendors at the markets. So that season just finished up March 7th, and we are having an incredible amount of rentals of the building, a very successful varieties of uses of the spaces. New partners like Festival Dance is now offering the cutest dance class you've ever seen on Monday afternoons in the Arts Workshop. Tiny 4-year-olds in tutus. You cannot go wrong with how cute that is. That is so adorable. And it's been a fun partnership to have them in this space. We've been approached by several different organizations to use the commercial kitchen space, so we probably will have some new partners for that space coming up on Farmers Market season 2. So I'm sure I have left things out, and you must have just incredible questions to ask me, so I'm going to open it up for that, because we don't have any pictures, so.
Jenny, I've got one question, and it has to do with our the winter market.
Mm-hmm.
You had mentioned that the weather had been much better than previous years, so there was lots of vegetables and different things. Did you find more traffic coming to those events than usual for the winter time?
We did. First off, at the beginning of the season, so in November, we had more farmers coming out to sell, so our plaza was completely packed with vendors we'd never had before because they still had a lot of produce to sell. And usually the plaza space is only occupied when it's nice weather, they come out, and also when they have things to sell. So it's a combination. The plaza is first come, first serve, and we fill it up, and if there are spaces available, people can take them, but they don't have to pre-register with me, so they can just show up that day and get a spot. So in the fall, we had more different farmers who had finished their season with the farmers market and still had squashes and other things produce-wise to sell, and did a lot of sales that first couple of markets. Also, our November markets were better weather than the last markets that the farmers market had in October. The weather was a lot more inclement, and we had sunshine. So then in the spring, because it's been a warmer winter, Deep Roots Farm, for example, had kale. Every single market, they had kale to sell. They had some other varieties of greens that grow in colder, but warmer but colder climate, so like over the winter, and it was pretty impressive because they don't participate in February and March, and they did this year. So we've definitely seen a lot more action from our growers. I think our growers are not getting the wintertime break that they usually have. to plan for the next season. They just are in it. They're already growing things. So yeah, it's been interesting. The weather outside for other vendors too. I mean, because the weather was good on our Saturdays, they came out and it wasn't so cold that they had to be inside. So we did have more vendors than we usually have too. And shoppers come out when it's sunshiny in the winter. People will leave their homes and come out and shop. If it was raining or snowing, they are more likely to stay home. So we did have good traffic too coming through.
Okay, questions for Jenny from council?
Jenny, are there plans for the upper floors of the 1912?
There are indeed. So we have two different committees, and I just found out that Walter has joined our use committee, which is very exciting. So we're going to have a use committee meeting. But there is a group within Heart of the Arts' board that is working on identifying the concept for upstairs, the bigger picture concept, like, okay, is this going to be a general use auditorium? Are we going to have a tenant for this space? Are we thinking that we want to look for specific uses upstairs, or are we going to let things be more whoever would like to rent this space, whatever the size of space? So we're working out a basic plan within Heart of the Arts' committee that will then go to the use committee for approval, and then the use committee will direct the choices of tenants. So then at that point that we get to where we have, say, for example, a 700 square foot space that could be used by, I'll just pull one out of my hat, like, say it's going to be used for karate or like martial arts. And then the use committee is tasked with having the martial arts groups that would like to be a tenant in that space apply to the use committee and would be reviewed, and then we would select. But that's down the road. And so what the idea is first is to get a concept for all the spaces that are upstairs that's in accordance with all of the work that's been done before. There have been a number of different public sessions where we've talked with the community about what would you like to see in the 1912 Center, and our lease agreement also has certain things that have been outlined, like the very top center of the building needs to be kept as a solid space. It can't be broken up into smaller spaces. So adhering to both our lease agreement and the previous conversations that have happened with the community, we're going to then be able to create a plan for upstairs that will guide the fundraising and the construction for those floors prior to actually getting tenants into the building. And I say tenants because it could be general rental would come through Heart of the Arts, like all the other spaces, like we rent the Great Room and the Arts Workshop and the Fisk Room. Those come through our office. But we could also have groups like Friendly Neighbors who are a regular tenant in this space, and they pay us a monthly rent to use the building. So we could have any kind of different tenant in the building, partners with the space. But it's a slow process because right now we're still working on the exterior of the facility. I need to raise $150,000 to complete that project this year. So once that's done, we can then start directing our energies and funds into the interior. And it'll probably be in small stages that we are able to renovate and occupy the spaces smartly, that we would not add too much new facility to the community at any one time, because if we were to open up 20,000 more square feet of usable space to the community at one time, it wouldn't get used all at the same time. But if we introduce things slowly, people can say, oh, I could have my book club in here, or oh, I would be able to play bunco in this space, or this is a great place to have our regular meeting. And so when people get to know it slowly and we only have a few spaces, we can really properly introduce them to the community so they get an idea of what they could do with them. And then we wouldn't be sitting with a large amount of unoccupied space at one time that we would have to heat and not have that offset of occupying rental revenue. So that's the idea.
So your time frame would be probably at least 5 years out before we see anything up there.
I would say 3 to 5 years. I would love to have another piece of the building up and operational, even if it's just 2 700 square foot spaces and a bathroom up for the community in 3 years. So
Which
that's-
square feet is that third floor?
well, each of the 2 floors that are left are 10,000 square feet apiece. And that's including the hallway space.
Walter?
Jenny, as I've said before, I think Heart of the Arts and yourself in particular have done a great job with that building.
Thank you.
Your list of what all you've accomplished in the 8 years that you've had the contract. That brings me to my question. I believe it's 8 years, May 1st,
Yep.
that the Heart of the Arts had the contract with the city to manage the building, yet you've been running the winter market for 11 years.
So it was one of the first programs that Heart of the Arts started doing when the city owned and managed. We rented. So Heart of the Arts actually paid the city rent to rent the facility to do a market
To
in it.
run the market. Good answer. Thank you. I knew there was an explanation.
Yep.
Other questions for Jenny?
What's,
Well, thank you, Jenny, very much for the report.
they fixed your
I would
technical
entertain a
difficulties.
motion from somebody here
I
to,
move we accept the report.
okay?
Second?
Dan made a motion to accept the Heart of the Arts report with Jim Boland's second. I will start to roll with John.
Aye.
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 Hi.
Okay, we'll move on. Thank you very much,
you.
Jenny, for all your wonderful work.